All right, welcome to the free group coaching using intention tapping to help you to experience intention tapping. Welcome along to friends, new and old, new and what do we say? Anyway, some of them are old, aren't you? Come on, we're getting old, those of us that are friends. We've been friends for quite a while. So anyway, there's nothing wrong with that. We can release our emotional attachments to being old because there's some good things about it. I'm really pleased to be able to spend this time with you. I want to share as much as possible about how you can use intention tapping and give you a chance to experience it, mainly by demonstrating it so that those of you who are new to it will get to see how it works, hopefully, with a few volunteers, but you'll also get to tap along. And as you know, if you know tapping, when you do that, you get two benefits. One is you get the benefit just of tapping, which can tune and tone your energy and help to kind of release stress and bring up your good energy and bring it back into flow. The other thing is that you get to borrow benefits from other people's issues. And there's a lot of evidence now that when you tap along when someone else is working on an issue, you can get benefits on your own issue. Now, before we go any further, I just want to ask for who is familiar with tapping? Can you put your hand up, or if you can't be seen? So that's everybody I can see on this screen. And then I think everyone else is not necessarily. Okay, so if I can't see you on the screen, maybe you can type in the chat. All right, so that's going to really help if we don't have to go through the real basics of tapping. I'm just going to quickly review some things, and I do have some things to go through, but we'll get straight into the coaching after that. All right, so thank you for letting me know that. All right, so here we are. It's about experiencing intention tapping. That's the plan. And of course, we've got to get the legalities out of the way. So you know already, because I put it on the sign-up page, that this is not medical advice. The techniques that I'm going to be using, some of them are still considered experimental in the scientific paradigm with no guaranteed outcome for any particular user. Just because they've been really effective for lots of other people doesn't mean that they will work for you in exactly the same way. So therefore, you have to agree to take full responsibility for your own mental and physical health and your use of the techniques. Now, tapping has a really significant evidence base, but the intention tapping and the intentions that I'm combining with tapping, although they have a lot of the stuff and the way I use this, like we use it, we combine it with mindfulness and other things that are very researched. This particular combination, we haven't done studies because it's all very new. So therefore, you just have to accept that it's still considered largely experimental, and the results that we have are based on clinical results rather than research-based results. Therefore, if you have mental or physical health problems, please make sure that you check in with your therapist and or physician and consult with them about your participation and use of any of the techniques. You know already the call is being recorded, and by participating, you have given permission to being recorded, and the recordings will be shared. I'm asking you to please be respectful of others and yourself, which means be here now, and avoid at all costs distractions. So if you're sitting in a workshop, everybody tends to face the front, and if someone gets up to go to the restroom or the bathroom, you don't necessarily see that. But on Zoom, we will see that. So if that happens, switch off your camera so that we can't see you go. And please don't allow other people to wander into the back of the room. It's very disrespectful to someone who might be sharing their personal stuff in a coaching session to have all those kinds of distractions of people wandering by and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, please be thoughtful about that stuff. Join in, participate, tap along, and you will borrow benefits from this process. As I mentioned, I want to give you a practical introduction, a experiential introduction to this process I call intention tapping, or IEP, intention-based energy process. The two names are because what I do and using the intentions can be done on its own without tapping. And then I like to combine it with tapping, and I call that intention tapping. There's a lot of stress in the world at the moment and a lot of anxiety. And even if you are not suffering this as much as others, it's impossible to be completely unaffected. And so, you know, sometimes this stuff can creep up on us and sometimes it can hit us in the face. And so whichever of those is the case for you, I want to help you to become freer of that stuff and help you release the negative emotional patterns that have been keeping you stuck from being able to move forward. One of the great things about intention tapping is that you regain access to resources that you might have forgotten that you have. When you're stuck in the problem, it's hard to see a way out, or it's hard to access resources that you had maybe at previous times in your life. And when things start to move, you go, wow, okay, yeah, I forgot that I had this, and I forgot that I can do this. And now I remember that, you know, I have these strengths mostly, but the nature of this process is that it takes you to a place of calm and a place of clarity, and that can allow you to make good choices for the future. Okay, just another little proviso. If you're going to be using tapping and you've been wandering around outside your house, you should wash your hands thoroughly before using tapping. Tapping is not a replacement for medical care, and you should follow your local medical guidelines if you're not feeling well. Okay, so intention tapping, aka intention-based energy process, is a process of combining specific, definite intentions with tapping. Now, these intentions are different to the way a lot of the world talks about intentions. When we met Gary Craig back in 1998, we were all speculating then about, you know, whether you would be able to use intention to heal or use intention to create emotional freedom. But we didn't really have good ways of doing it back then. And I haven't seen, you know, I've been researching this stuff virtually my whole life and trying different types of things called intentions, most of which were kind of affirmations. And they're very different to what we do in intention tapping. And there are some good reasons why they don't work for everybody and why intention tapping does tend to work for most people that use it. Anyway, if we get time, we can go into the details of that. But the intentions release the emotional attachments that are causing our suffering. They also can be used to restore your body energy to flow and balance, and bring you to a place of clarity and help you reconnect with your resources. We combine the intentions with tapping using an approach that I developed with my good friend, Dr. David Lake, which we call simple energy techniques. It is so simple that it can be taught to children. And this beautiful little girl is one of the children that we taught it to when we went to the Philippines after the super typhoon to help people with the trauma that they had suffered from the biggest typhoon to ever hit land. It was a very devastating thing, the super typhoon. And we taught it to a lot of, you know, key people in the villages that were the hardest hit villages, so that they could pass it on to others. But we also taught it to the kids. So SET, or simple energy techniques, is basically started as a simpler form of emotional freedom techniques. We were calling it EFT, and Gary Craig was calling what we were using EFT until we changed it too much, and then we agreed to call it something else. So that's what we do. It's gentle, it's user efficient, it's user-friendly and efficient. It's more efficient, we find, than EFT. And anyway, you can judge for yourself. My good mate, Dr. David Lake, he is currently in his home in lockdown in the northern beaches of Sydney. If you've been looking at the news or you're over there, you know that Sydney's in a hard lockdown at the moment, with a big resurgence of the Delta variant and so on. But he's also pretty much retired, and he lives basically on the beach. So I'm carrying on the legacy, and I get to take the credit for some of the things that he developed and we developed together in SET. Okay, just very quickly, we use the same points that are used in EFT and TFT, you know, emotional freedom techniques and thought field therapy. If you are using EFT or you know EFT, then, and you only learned about it recently, you probably don't even know that the finger points exist, because most people are just using the points on the upper body and stimulating those points by tapping on them, which is, you know, why EFT and SET are often just called tapping. But we also do tapping on the points on the finger and hand. Few basics, which I'll run through, and then we'll get into it. So some basics of tapping using SET. You tap gently on these points that I just showed you, and I'll just run through them again very quickly when I get off the slideshow. You can tap in any order on either side of the body. You can focus on whatever you're aware of. You don't have to use words to describe your problem. You can just focus on whatever you are thinking, whatever you are feeling, whatever sensations are happening in your body, whether it's an image or a memory or whatever, and you just tap on the points while you do that. You can tap directly, where you just focus in on the things that are concerning you and work through the different aspects of the problem, just like you do in EFT. Or you can get benefits just by tapping and doing what we call indirect tapping, where you just tap on the points without having to be clever, because we have found that people get benefits just from doing the tapping itself. And if you do tapping every day, the more tapping you do, the better the results that you get. And when people tap every day, their general stress comes down, their life energy comes up, and their confidence and their optimism improves. And most people find that a lot of problems go away without even having to be specifically focused on. We like to use a mindful approach where we combine mindfulness and acceptance, where you just notice what's happening, you accept what's there, you allow it to be there and to do what it does, and you just follow that and add the tapping to that process. And it's a beautiful thing in terms of what it can do. We don't use setup or reminder statements like they use in EFT. We just allow you to focus on the problem in your own way. And we use continual tapping, and what I've mentioned, this energy toning, where you know, if you're doing a session, then we have you tapping along the whole time. And the more tapping you do, the more benefits you get. Then we ask you to do the tapping every day, and we find that the people who do the more tapping tend to get the better results. And we use fingertip tapping, where we use the thumb of the same hand to tap on the points on the fingers and hands. So just for anyone who's unfamiliar with that, I'm going to just demonstrate that here. So I'm using the thumb just to tap on the side of the index finger. If you follow along, then you can get the tapping started. And you tap on the side of the middle finger. Then you can tap on the side of the ring finger. Now, please don't tell me that this point is officially underneath. I'm not concerned about that. We're just using this as a tapping point, and it works quite well. Then tapping on the little finger, again on the side. And of course, you can go up and down the fingers just doing this. And you can wrap around either the index finger or the middle finger and tap on the side of the thumb as well. And that's something that you can do anywhere. You can take this with you, and it's portable. If you are coming out of lockdown and now you have to deal with crowds again, and you have to deal with performance again, and you have to deal with presentations again and all that kind of stuff. And there's a fair bit of anxiety for a lot of people about that. You can be gently tapping on these points out of sight with your hands under the table, or your hands behind your back, or your hands inside your jacket pocket. And this is just a way of using the tapping discreetly, and it really does confer benefits. Of course, you can tap on the upper body points, but most people are not willing to do this in public. You can touch or hold or rub the points instead of tapping on them. That can work very well as well. All right, so quickly back to the screen. Start tapping. So now, if you know tapping, then you should be tapping on the points. If you know the points of EFT, then just tap through the EFT points. If you know SET, or the points we use in intention tapping, you can tap on those points, and you will get the benefits of that tapping. And we've got like an hour and a bit over an hour and 10 minutes left. If you get 70 minutes of tapping into your system, that alone will bring down some of the stress in your system. Just that alone. If you also tap along and keep doing it while other people are talking, while other people are working, you'll get other benefits that will get into your system and help you out in lots and lots of ways. Okay, so the discovery of intention tapping basically came about because of a series of events where I was drawn back to Byron Katie's wonderful book called Loving What Is. I was going through a tough time with a heel spur that stopped me from being able to move without pain. I was upset at myself and upset at where I was going wrong in my business and going wrong in my life. And I was using every technique I could find to try and fix things. Anyway, when I picked up Byron Katie's wonderful book, this statement jumped out at me. It's not the thoughts, it's the attachments to our thoughts that causes our suffering. And of course, I already knew that this was the case because with tapping, you have a thought that stirs you up emotionally, and then you do the tapping and now you have the same thought and it doesn't stir you up emotionally. So what's happened? It's the thought is still there, but the thought now has no power. So the thought itself doesn't have the power. It's the emotion attached to the thought. Two different people with the same thought, one of them is debilitated and the other person just goes, meh. And the reason is because one person has a strong emotional attachment to that thought. Now, we use tapping to release that emotional attachment, and it works very, very well. But in this moment, I had the insight, what if we could just use intention to release that emotional attachment? Now, we've been speculating about this for years. You know, when we met Gary in February 1998, in that workshop, we were speculating about using intention to create changes. But very little did very much in all my years of experimenting until I discovered these particular sorts of intentions. So in this moment, and it was probably because I was in a moment of pain, it's funny how sometimes we seem to need pain to give us the insight that we need to make a shift. I formed this simple intention. I release all my emotional attachments to this problem. And instantly I felt a massive shift, equivalent to the biggest shifts that I had when I used tapping effectively. And that statement has become the most, well, you know, the basic core intention statement of this process of intention tapping. It's the one that I use over and over and again. And then the skill is being able to identify the emotional targets and the things that you are emotionally attached to. And of course, the problem with your own stuff is sometimes you don't know what you are attached to. And that's why working in a group is helpful. That's why seeing a coach or a practitioner is helpful. That's why we all, you know, we're all too close to our own stuff. And some of it is hidden from us. It's in our subconscious, and it only occasionally gets triggered out to where we can see it. But the good thing about intention tapping is that, you know, from those beginnings, I learned that you have a part, which I call the unconscious, which will help you to identify where to go next. And I'll show you that process as we go through. Anyway, after using it for a few times and finding that it just kept making these big shifts immediately in my system, then I felt this tightness in my chest. And I realized, you know, underneath every problem, when we have an emotional problem, there's something going on in the body. And we're not always aware of it. Sometimes we are because we feel the feelings, but sometimes we're so fixated on the thoughts, and you know, we need to be able to release some of those emotional attachments to the thoughts so that we can get access to what's happening in our body. And that's what happened for me, was that I started to feel what was happening in my body. I felt this disturbance in my chest. And of course, I realized, you know, when you have a problem, you have a disturbance in the force. You have a disturbance in your energy. And tapping restores the energy to flow, you know, so you have a disturbance in energy flow, tapping restores the flow. And again, it occurred to me, what if I could just use intention? So I formed the simple intention. I restore the right energy flow to my chest. Instant expansion, beautiful deep breath, natural, just restored my breathing to easy breathing. And I thought, wow, okay, this is very interesting. Now, that's basically history, because now we're a few years down the track, and I have found these particular intention statements to work reliably for many, 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 many people all over the world. To the point where now we're training practitioners. In fact, we have some people in our group. I mentioned Anne, I see also Diane, and when I come back to the group, I'll see if there's some others there. Please, if I haven't seen you, let people know who you are. We have now a listing of people who've trained as practitioners and who are using this. And the skill is not in just remembering these basic intentions, because most people could do that in 5 minutes. The skill is actually being able to work with someone to be able to help them to work through those emotional attachments and release them and restore the energy flow and balance in the body. So there's a third statement there that are a part of the three main core intentions. I restore the right energy balance to this area in the body wherever it's out of balance. And we're learning more every day about how to apply these and how to combine them with tapping to get really good results for people. Okay, so that is the real, what do they call it? The abridged version, or the summary version of the basic process, because this today I want to be a chance to experience it. And so what I'd like to do is to get some of it happening and to show it to you and to have you be tapping along. And then you can also observe and you can ask your questions about the process. If you want to volunteer, you can be the one who gets to experience it, and you can see how it works for you on your particular issues. And if you tap along, you're going to borrow benefits from the stuff that other people do. So we might even, okay, so there are a couple of questions. One is Karen saying, can you outline the key differences with SET and EFT? One of the major differences is that we don't use setup statements and we don't use reminder phrases. Those are key differences. The other thing is because we don't require you to use words to describe the problem, you can just notice whatever you notice and you can tap on the points. You can tap in any order on any of the points for as long as you like, and just do that continual tapping and use a mindful approach. Anyway, there's a lot more of this stuff I can show you rather than talk about. And some of it is on, if you go to our website, eftdownunder.com, you can look up the special report on there and find out a bit more of the difference and have a look at some of the videos and so on. All right, so Celine, yes, I use it with my clients for many years and it works really well. Yes, it does. For most people, for most things. It's not going to be the be all and end all for everything, but it works really well for lots of stuff. So I'd love if there's someone here who wants to have an experience of this, maybe someone who hasn't used it before or doesn't know it, so we can start at the beginning. If that's you, just put up your hand. I need you to be able to have your video working, so it needs to be someone who has that. So, okay, I've got Natasha. You were first, I think. So let's get you on the screen. And what I'm going to do is just spotlight you and spotlight me. Okay. All righty. So Natasha.
Hi. Nice to meet you, Steve.
We've got a little bit of feedback from your audio. I don't know if you have
Got a mic.
If you have a mic, all right, that's the one that's hanging down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So it might just be the movement and the rustling of that. So.
Okay. I won't move unless I'm tapping. I'm tapping on my fingers. Don't worry.
No worries. Okay. So that's good. If you are tapping, and everybody else, please start tapping. You can tap on the upper body points and just follow along on those points, or you can tap on the finger points. But if you tap the whole time, then you're going to get a lot of benefits from this process of tapping along. So Natasha, you're tapping on the finger points, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
That's right.
what problem would you like to solve? What challenge would you like to focus on?
Well, where shall I start? Well, I'm in Melbourne. People have already been messaging me to say that there's another 2 weeks of lockdown. And I was over it before it even began, this lockdown. Just feeling very frustrated. Like I've got teenagers at home who I can't get moving. They're sitting on their laptops at home all day.
Oh, okay, I'm feeling exhausted just talking to you. All right, so now in EFT, you have to really be specific, right? With this, we let the unconscious give us the specifics, and we don't try and work those out in the mind, okay? Unless it's obvious. So I just want you to tap and just say, I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To all of this.
To all of this stuff that's going on.
Yeah, now just let it do whatever it does and just tap. And your job is not to make something happen. Your job is just to notice what comes next.
I just feel like a bit of stuckness in my throat, upper chest area.
Okay, beautiful. So that's what happens is you're aware first of all the things that are happening. Now you've become aware of what's happening in your body. So just say, I'll restore the right energy flow.
I restore the right energy flow.
To my mouth.
To my mouth.
And my throat.
And my throat.
And then just let it do whatever it does. Don't try and make it do anything. Just keep tapping and just notice.
What's coming up, it's not fair.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so what we do is we just take the next thing and we make that the next target, all right? So I can see you're even, part of you is upset about the fact that you're attached to that thought, okay? So, but let's just do that. Just say I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To it's not fair.
To it's not fair.
Yeah, okay.
I just feel stuck.
Okay.
Stuck, literally stuck at home. I want to go further.
Okay, so again, I'm just gonna go with what you said. Just say I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To needing to go further.
To needing to go further. I'm kind of wondering, because you said that I might be upset, and I'm kind of wondering about that, but I don't feel it.
No, that's okay. No, we just go with whatever you are. So as you move through one aspect to the next, so you've done a couple of nice sighs, which anybody who's watching would notice that. What are you noticing right now? That's where you are right now.
Just noticing that I'm tired.
Okay. All right. So the tiredness, people sometimes think like that might be legitimately how you're feeling, and it might also just be connected to the issue. So we just take everything and we use it as the next part. And so just say, I restore the right energy flow.
I restore the right energy flow.
To this tiredness.
To this tiredness.
And just let it do what it does and move however it moves and notice what comes next. Could be thoughts, could be feelings, could be images, could be memories, could be sensations, anything.
Just like I noticed that there's this resistance that I'm feeling, like I'm feeling it even in my hands and in my arms, like a resistance to this whole situation.
Okay, all right. So I'll just go with that, right? What you said, because you called it a resistance. So let's just say I release all my resistances.
I release all my resistances.
And aversions.
And aversions.
to this situation?
To this situation. I'm just, present to, I'm not happy about it. I just want it to end, so the patience is gone.
Yeah. Okay. So just say I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To it has to end.
To it has to end.
Right now.
Right now. This is really interesting. Now my thoughts are going to the fact that I've got so many things to do at home that I could be doing, but I'm not doing them because I'm shitty about the lockdown. But
okay, well, you have a good thing to divert you from doing those things, I think. So
yeah.
Just say I release all my resistances.
I release all my resistances.
And aversions.
And aversions.
To doing all those things.
To doing all those things. Just having a bit of a sensation sort of in my chest.
Okay. And what's that sensation doing? Is it uncomfortable? Is it...
yeah, it's a little bit uncomfortable, like a little bit like I'm being held back.
Okay. All right. So just say I restore the right energy flow.
Restore the right energy flow.
And balance.
And balance.
To my chest.
To my chest. Oh, that's good.
And just notice.
I just kind of, it's a little bit of tiredness, but I didn't sleep well last night. So, but other than that, I do feel a lot more relaxed and a lot more peaceful.
It shouldn't be, really. I mean, there are plenty of reasons not to be.
Yeah, it's just a little bit left in my chest, I guess.
Okay.
A little bit of a feeling, a little bit tight feeling.
Yeah. So just say I restore the right energy flow.
I restore the right energy flow.
To my chest.
To my chest.
And my diaphragm.
And my diaphragm.
And my stomach.
And my stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really have anything. I don't have anything else.
What do you mean you don't have anything else? You've got a lot of...
Not regarding this issue.
Oh, okay. So there's something else.
We could go down a long list, Steve. We can go like a long list.
Yeah, all right. I understand. What happens with it? Because what happens is the unconscious will then give you the next thing, and it might be another problem, or it might be a related problem, or it might be connected in some way that you don't even consciously know. And so you just kind of keep going. So people sometimes say, like, when do you stop with this? I'm like, I stop when the time runs out, because why not just clear up as much as you can, like just if your unconscious is going to give you some more and give you more chance to be free, you can clear up as much as you like. But I understand for now, this might be okay.
Yeah.
Pause here.
Yeah.
But just tell me what's happening in your body right
I just feel like, just like relaxed. And I was tapping before when you're talking as well. So I noticed that even before we started doing this, that I was just yawning a lot and sort of felt like stretching and moving at the end of, I've had a long day working on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I just feel like, I feel like a bit of energy again. Like I don't feel as tired as I normally would at this time.
That's right. That's right. A lot of our tiredness is just emotional, mental, emotional stuff that we've kind of taken on board, and it just kind of wears us down. And then we think that's our state, that's where we're kind of stuck. But release a few of those attachments that have accumulated through the day for various reasons, because, maybe you've looked at the COVID update and seen, what you should be. Now you need to worry about it's not going to end, or your mind will create all kinds of projections about that, and so on. And it's like, I'm going to be stuck with these teenagers forever,
Yeah, well, it's actually one of my teenagers who came to tell me, "Oh, we've got another 2 weeks, Mum." I'm like, no.
You're thinking happy days. Don't have to go to school, right? Whatever.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, well, let's just pause here. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll just turn it unpin or unspotlight us, and then we'll move back to the group. But if you have something else you want to pop in, just let us know, okay? All right, so, and I'll just, if you can just mute yourself unless you want to let me know if you want to pop something back in. All right, so this is the basic process. Now, I did bring in one of our other intention statements. There are a number of other statements we use other than the core one, so I knew that this resistances and aversions one was totally appropriate for Natasha and her issue. It's actually learning which ones to use and how to use them for, and what issues to use them on, which is the skill for the people who are in our practitioner training. But for using it for yourself, you can go a long way just with the basic releasing attachments and restoring flow. Honestly, you really, really, really can. So let's get some questions. Let's get some comments. I do want to work with some more people. So some of those who put up their hand that didn't actually get a chance to work, hopefully we'll give you a chance in a minute. But let's get some questions first from people who want to ask them. You can put up your hand on the screen and I'll try and see you, or else just pop something in the chat and let me know. And don't all jump at once. Or do jump, like I always say, if you have a problem, okay, so Beck says, do you start with eyebrow and finish with top of head? No, I start with whatever and I finish with whatever. With intention tapping, you can be, some clients, I don't even teach them the upper body points. I just get them to tap on the hand because they get distracted by the upper body points. It can work no matter which points that you use. We have found that as long as you're tapping on at least a few points, so I would say at least 4 to 5 points, but it could be any of the points. Now, I tend to use the points, starting with the eyebrow and going down, and also do a lot of tapping on the finger points. And sometimes I just tap the whole time on the finger points while I'm working with people. Plus I use it myself. Sometimes I just go for a walk and I just tap on the finger points, and that's what I do. Okay, Brenda says, what about with physical problems as the main issue? Okay, with physical problems as the main issue, I always want to use this as a complementary approach with physical treatments, medical treatments, physical therapists or whatever else, so that I know what I'm dealing with, because I don't believe that all physical issues are only related to emotional issues. I believe that just about all physical issues have emotional issues attached to them, but not always as the cause. Some of them come as a consequence, So you have a bad thing that happens to you, and now you've got all these bad thoughts and feelings about it afterwards. I don't believe it's always just one way around. And when you are dealing with physical stuff, first of all, there's the physical stuff, and then there's your reactions to it. It's just like, for example, there's pain and then there's suffering. And for most people, the suffering is far bigger than the pain. And pain is an important message from the body that there's something that needs to be fixed. And so it's not something that you necessarily want to get rid of if it's telling you that there's something that needs to be corrected. But the suffering, we can work on that. And the suffering is normally your judgments about the problem, your reactions to the problem, the beliefs that you formed about the problem, what your mind will tell you, like, you know, your mind will tell you that you'll never get over this, or you'll, you know, this will get worse, or that you'll always have this problem and stuff like that. This works really well on that. And when you do that, it frees up a lot of energy and often causes beneficial results on those issues. Micah says, do you sometimes tap on the body and finger points at the same time? Yes, I do. Yeah, you can tap on any points. You can tap on both sides or one side. You can tap on some points at the same time as other points. Just do whatever feels good for you. It's the meridian stimulation of tapping which produces the main result. Otherwise, why would there be so many different tapping approaches all producing results for people? The thing they have in common is simply stimulating the meridian points. And we found that there's a significant amount of the result is based on the sheer amount of tapping that you do. Okay, let's have someone else. What about someone who's willing to speak? Come on, don't just type your thing in the chat. Let's have, you know, let's have someone put up their hand and ask a question. Okay, now, Anda, have you got your hand up to ask a question, or is your hand up from before? If you can unmute yourself and speak up, that'd be great.
Hello.
Hi.
It was from before.
Oh, okay. All right.
But if I'm here, I'd like to ask questions. A question like, what do you do if you tried this approach and you said the statements, but the pain and the tension is still there?
Okay, so first of all, I would be doing it. Are you talking about physical pain or emotional pain?
Emotional.
Okay, so some stuff we can't work on our own. So I would be highly recommending that you contact a practitioner to work with you. You know, I've had some things where I tapped for hours and hours on them, and then 5 minutes with someone else it opened up. Okay, and so
okay.
I've worked with other people my whole life, and I've been the beneficiary of good therapy. I hope, you know, I hope that shows to some extent. I know how beneficial it can be, and that's what I would recommend. If you're getting stuck, you just need someone to help you to use it for yourself, and you might be too close to your own problem. But you also, I don't know when you say you're using it exactly what you're doing. And so it might just be a matter of tweaking the way you're doing it, so that, or even doing some work with someone to open up things so that you then, the work that you do is more beneficial. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. Someone else. Now, Anne-Marie says, I assume that tapping relieves the nervous system, which then helps to ease the abnormal firing of neurons that cause chronic pain. Yes, that's a reasonable hypothesis. There's also, you know, the soothing of things in the anxiety centers and so on can actually have beneficial effects on pain as well. But there's also potentially some evidence that stimulating acupressure and acupuncture points actually interrupts pain messages as well. Now, we don't want to interrupt them so that they go away completely. David Lake had a client who had a severe inoperable brain tumor that was giving her massive headaches, that she was having to be hospitalized, and she was actually in a terminal phase, and she wanted to be able to die at home and not be in the hospital. He taught her the tapping. It was just tapping, not intention tapping. And she got the pain to go away completely. And she was able to stay at home and not have to go into the hospital, and she passed away peacefully at home. Now, the challenge with that is if there's a pain that's a real pain and there's something that's real there, then it suggests to me that I wouldn't ever just use tapping on that without having a diagnosis or knowing what it is, because you wouldn't want to have a tumor that maybe was treatable, that you were doing the tapping to get the pain to go away, but you really need to actually do something about that as well. And the tapping isn't going to be enough to cure the accumulated issues of you know, a few minutes of tapping isn't necessarily going to resolve all those issues that have accumulated over time in the body system. I would be using it again in a complementary way. People have so much either or thinking, you know, like it's either alternative or it's conventional. What about the best of both worlds? You know, what about combining this? What about using stuff that works no matter where it comes from? All right, let's get another volunteer. We can always do questions afterwards. Let's see if we can get another volunteer. I'm just going to change my temperature in my room. This room was a bit cool when I walked in, but now it's not. Obviously, we're getting warmed up. So let's get another volunteer. Who wants to do some tapping and do some intention tapping? Oh, someone said Maggie had her hand up. Someone said so. I think you were telling me, Diane. So where are you, Maggie? All right, there you are. Did you want to work? Yes or no? Yep, all right. If you unmute yourself, that's great. And we'll spotlight you, but we need, okay, have you managed to unmute?
Yep.
Okay, now I've got to find myself. I'm having trouble finding myself. Oh my gosh, my video has gone off on the screen. There we are. Okay. So, all right. So Maggie, are you familiar with tapping and familiar with the intention tapping?
Very. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go.
My issue is very similar to the lady who was on before. But a little different in that today I work at a hospital in northern New South Wales, and today we were told that we, unless we have the jab by next Friday, because I live in Queensland, that we can't come to work anymore.
Okay.
So it was sort of that ultimatum. And
okay. So what does that cause for you? What does that mean to you?
Massive anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so start tapping. And you said ultimatum, so let me just use that word and we'll just see where it goes. Just say I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
This ultimatum.
This ultimatum.
And everything it means.
And everything it means.
And just keep tapping and let that percolate through and see what comes.
It's confusion, you know, what next? What am I going to do? I have the choice, either I do or I don't. But well, my choice is that I don't.
Ultimatum, you don't have choice, right?
No, I don't. I don't have a choice at all.
Okay, so that's what I picked up that your mind is attaching to, right? And now you're saying, what do I do? Which implies that you have choice, because when you're stuck, you don't have a choice. But now you're like, well, maybe I have a choice. All right, well, let's try that. Just say I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To I don't have a choice.
To I don't have a choice. The little voice in my head said, yes, you do.
Okay.
That feels lighter. It feels a lot lighter.
Yeah. When you're stuck in a feeling, you're in a stuck perspective. So the stuck feeling and the stuck perspective go together, and then you can't see possibilities, you know. And so, you know, it's all doom and gloom, or it's all, you know, the death march, or it's all whatever it is, you know.
And I think because we've been in it all day, where it's been you know, look, it's going to change, you know, that it can't happen, it won't happen, you know, we need our staff. We can't afford to let staff go. And then, you know, you come home and put the news on and it's like, no, too bad.
Hmm.
You know,
Okay,
and
so just say I release all my emotional attachments
I release all my emotional attachments
to the news.
to the news.
I don't actually think the news is the problem, because people say, oh, I don't watch the news. I mean, of course, if you're getting overwhelmed, then you want to withdraw. It's too much for you to deal with. But actually, it's because we're getting triggered and emotionally attached to things. And some news is very good at that, you know, especially I think the American news is the best. Man, you ever watch that? If you don't go away feeling anxious, I reckon you don't have a body, because they are so good at triggering anxiety in just about everybody with the way they do the news, you know. But let's just see if we can actually release attachments rather than having to run or whatever. And then, of course, you can decide how much you need to be exposed to, you know.
Yeah.
And just keep tapping and just notice what comes up.
It's, what am I going to do?
Okay. All right. So this is the question that came up before. Now let's go with that. Just say, I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To what am I going to do?
To what the hell am I going to do?
Because sometimes we just put the thought exactly as you think it. We just put it into the intention, and then we let the unconscious deal with it. And just notice what comes up.
I've got a knot in my stomach, but I have my little intuitive voice saying, there is a way, there will be a way, you'll find a way.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to ask a way to do what or whatever. Let's just say, I restore the right energy flow.
I restore the right energy flow
to my stomach.
To my stomach and my chest.
Mm-hmm. Just keep tapping. Let it do whatever it does. Don't try and make it do anything. Just keep doing the tapping. So I'm tapping along, everybody, and I hope that you are as well, because you will get, number one, you will get benefits for that. But number two, you won't get triggered by Maggie's issue yourself, because I know this is going to resonate with a few people.
I just feel really pissed off.
Yeah.
Really just pissed off with that one person can change my life and the life of many other people as well, you know, in one foul swoop.
Okay, so there's a couple of different aspects of this. One is the pissed off feeling, right? I mean, pissed off is a bit of a thought, but it's a feeling. They kind of come together, right? And so there's a feeling that you shouldn't be feeling, right? And then there's something that someone shouldn't have done that's triggering that feeling, right? And we could target either of them, but I'm going to start with the feeling. And I just want you to say, I restore
the
right energy flow to this pissed off feeling.
This pissed off feeling. Oh.
Yeah. It's very common, especially for women, and I'm being sexist here, but it's not sexist. It's an observation, is that many women are not allowed to feel pissed off. So this is like a double negative. You know, you can judge yourself for feeling angry or pissed off, but it's an emotion that gets triggered quite a lot, you know.
Yeah.
And so when you're not allowed to feel your legitimate feelings, now you can kind of be upset at yourself being upset. And that creates a lid on the problem that stops it from being able to move.
And there's anger, like it's sort of seething anger below the surface.
Okay,
that
so
you
just say, I restore the right energy flow.
I restore the right energy flow
To this anger.
To this anger.
Now, of course, the anger is being triggered by something, and we could release the emotional attachments to the trigger, but actually there's also the emotion itself that needs to be able to move and flow and be accepted. Okay, so there's a lot of non-acceptance often of our feelings, and that causes them to stay stuck.
Yeah.
And just notice.
Yeah, it's feeling much calmer.
Mm-hmm.
It feels more like an annoyance now.
Okay, so let's now that we've got a little bit of flow in that, just say I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all my emotional attachments.
To the idiots.
To the idiots.
And what they shouldn't be doing.
And what they shouldn't be doing.
And what they should be doing.
And what they should be doing. Oh, I could feel that. It's like a little volcano.
What's that?
It felt like a little volcano going.
Well, let it do what it does. Let it do what it does. Just keep tapping. And then just notice what comes next. And sometimes it can take a little while. Sometimes it comes quite quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel it subsiding. Yeah, I feel a little more clarity. It's like that sort of the windows parting a little bit.
Yeah.
From the.
So I just want to say here as well, we're working on the emotions and your attachments, and that's what I want everyone to do. I don't need any discussion about issues or people's beliefs about what should or shouldn't be happening. It's only for releasing, right? Because once you release your emotional attachments to that stuff, that's when you see things clearly. Okay, so most of the things that you'll see out there are full of people's emotion because they haven't released their attachments to what's going on or what should be happening or shouldn't be happening. So I'm going to ask you not to thank you, not put philosophies out there. Okay, this is just chat and stuff. All right, what's happening for you, Maggie?
Yeah, I'm feeling really good.
You shouldn't.
Well, I'm feeling calmer in that I can think about it without just that feeling of bubbling anger and rage. And I think because I've been sitting in that all day, and I was tapping on my way home from work, just in the car. So I think that helped it quite a bit.
Yeah. And sometimes all the tapping on its own seems to do is kind of take the edge off, but it keeps kind of generating, because anger is a driving emotion to try and drive you to do something. But when you can't do something, then there's no kind of resolution to it. Or when you think you can't do something, now it's because you're attached to the thought that you've got no choice,
I did have a bit of a rant, a tapping rant on the way home, and a little bit of swearing in it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it did help.
Good.
Yeah. No, that's lightened it a lot, Steve. Thank you very much.
No worries. Okay, well, we're going to pause here, but I'm going to suggest that you keep doing that, because there'll be some other triggers and issues for you. It's not just one thing, but this is just a bit of a demonstration, a chance to get some tapping in. And once you open up the door and see through it that you don't have to be stuck with that way of feeling, then you can't, you can't stay totally stuck, because you know that there's a possibility for that. So you're opening up the door, and hopefully ultimately you're opening up wider and wider, and then you can just allow yourself to go and flow with life no matter what happens. And then you can adapt and adjust and flow with, and you can let life move you and move through you and not be stuck. But when a lot of the times things happen and we end up being stuck with them because we're objecting to them, we're criticizing them, we're judging ourselves for our reactions to them, and all those things stop us from being able to flow and adapt to whatever happens in life. It's ultimately your choice what you do, but you want to be making it from a position of clarity and based on your true values rather than being hooked,
And I can come from that, because I've already made the choice of what my choice is going to be, and now it's just, okay, what's next? What can I open up?
And the challenges sometimes are living with our choices, because all choices have consequences, and the mind will tell you, oh no, if you do this, that will happen. If you do this, and mind is just a projection machine. And the problem is only when we believe it and we go into the projections as if they're real, and then we're suffering, unnecessarily.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll pause here.
I was a bit chicken to come on, but I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did. Yeah, thank you. All right, so a round of applause for our volunteer. And and so any quick comments, observations, reactions, and I'm asking you to make those about the process of intention tapping, nothing to do with, vaccination, non-vaccination, government this, government that. Yes, if you're triggered, fine, you can bring that up, but I don't want to have a debate about all that stuff, because it's not the issue. The issue is what it triggers, So, questions, comments, observations, or as David Lake would say, profound thoughts. Celine.
Yes, it's a comment. I'm always so amazed about how quickly it changed, and I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thank you. Yeah, I'm still amazed by it myself. It's like, this should not work the way it does, but it does. And I tell you what I believe, okay? So I believe that you have your conscious mind, and that's the judging part that, thinks it's in charge, but it's really not, How many times have you done things that you didn't consciously want to do, or found yourself not doing things that you consciously do want to do, all the time? Secondly, you have your unconscious. Now, the unconscious is sometimes hidden and sometimes it becomes conscious. And this is your beliefs, your programmed learnings, the things that were beaten into you or drummed into you, and that you were taught. And most of them you were taught through pleasure and pain and crime and punishment. And so, the things with strong emotion are the strongest things that you are attached to. And that creates patterns of thinking, patterns of feeling, patterns of behaving. So that's the subconscious. Now, the unconscious is the part of you that looks after you all the time. This is the part that beats your heart without you having to think about it. This is the part that's seeking to regulate your body systems and trying to make you survive and thrive no matter what you've been doing, okay? And it will keep working for your good. And this is the part that we're directing the intentions to. And this is the part that knows more than the subconscious and the conscious minds. I like to use the analogy that if there's an iceberg. The bit above the water is the conscious mind. The bit below the water, which is a bigger part, is the subconscious mind. The unconscious mind is the ocean. And I mean that in terms of how much it can control, how much it's aware of, and how much its capacity is in terms of what it can know and do. People talk about the higher self or the wise part or whatever. This is what we're talking about when we refer to the unconscious mind. And so we learn in this approach to trust what comes from the unconscious. And so if you, if you become one of the people who wants to become a practitioner in this approach, it's learning to trust what comes from the unconscious. It's also learning to target what comes from the person and learning to be able to pay a special kind of attention to the person and connect with them in a special kind of way. So it's one thing to know the statements, and it's one thing to know, the tapping, but it's another thing entirely to be able to bring that to bear to help somebody to get relief. So anyone who wants to use this as a practitioner, I can tell you that there's so much more to learn, and I'm still learning it. And I see Eric, who's in our level 2, has finished the level 2 training and working on getting that practitioner certification finished, aren't you, Eric? Is that right? Pretty close now. He goes like this. Yes.
Practicing, but not done anything about case studies or anything.
Yes. All right. Well, so we can work on the resistances and aversions for those case studies, perhaps. There's always some part of the process that's a challenge for people. So some of it might be getting clients, some of it might be doing case studies, some of it might be doing the video to demonstrate what you're doing and so on. It's good to be able to use the intention tapping to help people to resolve those. And in fact, if you go onto our blog on the intention tapping website, you'll find an article by Alistair Richardson, who is one of our recently certified practitioners. And he used the intention tapping to overcome his procrastination, his lifelong procrastination habit. And the best thing about it is not only was he able to get over that to complete his certification, he was actually able to have the experience I had from intention tapping, which is where you start to go, wow, all these things I've believed my whole life, they don't have to be real. And all these things that I thought were, just how I am, they're just things that I attach to, and I don't have to be attached to them anymore. And so you get this incredible freedom and this realization of what's, our true unlimited nature. All right, so one more question or comment, and then we'll do some more tapping. Diane is one of our certified intention tapping practitioners.
Just a very quick comment. I noticed in both demos that you did a little bit of testing, a little bit of provocative testing.
Yes.
When I think Natasha said, I feel relaxed and peaceful, and was it Maggie said, I'm feeling really good. And in both cases, you said, well, you shouldn't be.
Yes.
And so that I'm assuming that was just a little test to see whether that was real.
And of course, some of you know that we have an approach called provocative energy techniques, where we combine a provocative style, and that's where we exaggerate the problem, and we also, we speak for the negative part just to see what's going on here. And yeah, so when I say you shouldn't be, I want to see how they react to that. And if there's still part of them saying yes to I shouldn't be, I know that there's more work to do. But usually they come back and say, what do you mean I shouldn't be? Of course I should be. Yeah. Anna says, I really appreciate your expression. This shouldn't work, but it does. And your deep, serious and pragmatic approach at the same time, as far as I'm capable to understand. Thank you so much. Thank you. Lovely comment. Thank you. All right, so we have a little bit of time left, and we're going to do some more tapping, but I'm just going to do a quick 5-minute infomercial first, because otherwise I won't make sure to tell you this, and I want to tell you this before everybody goes away. So let me, first of all, take a screenshot of this if you don't have it, or, you know, write down the statements. I release all my emotional attachments to this problem. I restore the right energy flow to whatever body area is disturbed. I restore the right energy balance to whatever body area is disturbed. Now, we're still learning when to use energy flow and when to use balance. And sometimes I know which one to use with a client, and sometimes I'm just having an educated guess. But the good thing is you can use them interchangeably until you can learn a bit more about that process, okay? So for those of you, oh, come on, do what you're supposed to do, please. Okay, for more on intention tapping, you will find more on our website, intentiontapping.com, which is a new website. It's only got a bit of stuff on it there at the moment, but there are some videos on there that you can go and watch. And then in EFTdownunder.com, most of the stuff on there that's related to intention tapping is on the blog. And you can go to my YouTube, and my YouTube is Wells Down Under, or just search on Steve Wells intention tapping and you'll find them. And there are plenty of things like this that have been done on there that you can get on and tap along to and learn a bit more. Now, we do have a level 1 workshop coming up. It's in a couple of weeks' time, the 28th and 29th of August and the 4th of September. Unfortunately, this workshop will not suit those of you in the UK and Europe time-wise, or the people in South Africa time-wise, because it'll be the middle of the night for you. But within a week, I expect to announce, I'm going away on holiday for a week, and then when I get back, I'll be announcing another level 1 workshop, which will have better times for those of you who are in those countries. So that will be on the intentiontapping.com site under events and training. You'll find out all the programs that have been confirmed right now. There is a workshop coming up that is in French and English. So it's I speak in English with translation into French, and you're welcome to join that workshop that's coming up in October, and you'll find that on the intentiontapping.com website as well under events and training. Then there is 100% Yes, which is a group coaching program that I run, and another round of this program is starting very, very soon. And this one is actually located on the EFT Down Under website, EFTdownunder.com. But if you go to the events and training page, or you can go to this specific link, when I send out the recording, I will send out a link, a copy of the link if you want to go there. But if you do want to get into that, there are only a few places. As of this moment, I think there are 4 or 5 places in each group that are available. In fact, group 2 is normally already full by now. So very fortunately, we've still got 4 places available in the group, which corresponds with this time right now. The group runs from 4 Perth time to 5:30. So exactly this time, maybe an hour different when the time zones change, but it's a 6-month program. And, you know, we've had some excellent things happen. It's a personal development program incorporating intention tapping. And basically, I work through the 7 steps of 100% Yes, which I've been using for a number of years. And we use intention tapping to help you to release your beliefs that are blocking you and limiting you from being able to live your life your way and to live your values and achieve your goals. And so we work through these steps in a semi-structured way. Now, I say semi-structured because you know, we work with the content that comes up from the group members, but we do drill down into values and beliefs at various times and goals, and help you to be able to get over whatever's blocking you from being able to go for that. And so that's on EFTdownunder.com at yes-tapping-group, or go to the events and training page, and then scroll down until you find it. Now, there's also another round of the 100% Yes Business Success Group coming up. This is basically, we use the 100% Yes process and combine that with some business strategies and some intention tapping. I share some stuff. I did actually work for 20 years in the Centre for Entrepreneurship at Curtin University in the business school with business owners, and I've developed a lot of understanding of business issues, plus the issues that people get stuck on, like selling and marketing and money and promoting themselves and all that stuff that people have trouble with in building a business. And whether that is just a coaching business or a tapping business, or whether it's a, it's a bricks and mortar business or something like that, this is a great small group program, and that is at this time. So that is on Tuesdays in the next round. It's a 5-month program. There are 9 90-minute sessions, and they start at the same time as we started this group. So you can go online to intentiontapping.com and you'll find that under intention-tapping-business. Again, if you go to the events and training page, you can scroll down and find the information there. So, right, we still have some time. Let's do some tapping with someone else. Who wants to do some intention tapping, and we'll all tap along and borrow some benefits with you. So, hands up. Okay. If you have a fear of volunteering, we can treat that too. Lou, okay. I think you put your hand up and then you put it down. Is that right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I
okay.
suppose I'm a little conscious of time, but then I'm also realizing that that's a stalling point as well.
Of course. And, when we do our training, sometimes we have going to breakout rooms, and sometimes we only have like 5 or 10 minutes, and then people rotate, to have a practice. And it can be surprising what you can do with this technique in a few minutes. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Are you tapping?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, yeah, all the time.
Where are you, by the way?
Blue Mountains.
Blue Mountains in New South Wales. Beautiful place.
It is,
Lovely.
but under Greater Sydney lockdown for the last 8 weeks. So, yeah, just feeling a little bit, not that that's what I want to talk to you about. But,
all right. Well, then let's just tell me what you want to talk with me about.
Long story, but short version. Reconnected with somebody last year because of lockdown situations. But what it did bring up, she was a friend of when we were 14, 15.
Yep.
And we'd had a very chance situation where we accidentally met in Athens airport in 1988, and then she was gone again. Anyway, so we reconnected last year. We've seen each other a number of times. We talk about once a week, but I have not been able to, the level of grief about wasted time.
Okay.
And
all right, so let's go with that. You said wasted time?
Due to circumstance.
Yeah.
And a falling out, and I'd moved towns, and that chance meeting in 88, she tried to contact me, and just due to circumstance again, it missed, And then last year when we connected, as I said, I went into a free fall. I was spiraling, crying, couldn't understand why, and yeah, it's still there.
Okay, so just say
even though it's actually been quite an amazing situation.
Of course. Okay, so just release all my emotional attachments.
I release all of my emotional attachments
to all this grief.
To all this grief.
And all this wasted time.
And all this wasted time.
And then just keep tapping. And just let it do what it does. And just notice.
Now I've got a runny nose.
I always think I save so much on Kleenex, since Zoom, it's like running a workshop, we go through so many of these things, you know, but
I know you've offered me
clients
to
in the office, you know, yeah. But Zoom is saving us heaps, you know.
It's interesting what you say about seeking somebody else's, which is why I'm here tonight, of course, but because yeah, I haven't really concentrated on the grief with tapping. I've just been tapping on a more, general sort of sense when I can. And
so just try this. Just say I release all my emotional attachments.
I release all of my emotional attachments.
To all these feelings I shouldn't be feeling.
To all these feelings I shouldn't be feeling. Sorry, I laugh because shouldn't be in the English language.
Yeah, well, it is.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot behind it, though. It is very good how it calms everything down.
Yeah.
It does help with the overwhelm.
That's right. And then just keep tapping and notice what's next, because then, if there's something else that can bubble up to the surface or come into awareness one way or the other.
Yeah. I suppose I sort of want to test to see how far the grief was going to, I think I've, cried quite a lot and I've explored it enough. And, maybe it's time to sort of put it to rest.
Well, maybe, but, it's sometimes like Byron Katie says, sometimes it lets go of you rather than you letting go of it. So, then if you start judging your grief, then you feel bad about feeling bad, and then that's kind of stops you from being able to resolve it. So, you can then have grief about grief, and like, I shouldn't have this grief. So even though you would never think that because you're obviously an English teacher or something, right? Only in your mind. It's okay.
I've done a few of your workshops.
No worries. Yeah. Okay. So just say, I release all my resistances.
I release all of my resistances.
And aversions.
And aversions.
To moving forward.
To moving forward.
Into this relationship.
Into this relationship.
The way I am right now.
The way I am right now.
I made a lot of assumptions there, so you can tell me which ones I got wrong, that's okay.
There was sort of a softening in my torso.
Mm-hmm.
More of an opening, I would suggest.
Yeah, because we can we internalize the harshness, from various critics and teachers, from the past, and then that becomes our internal world, of judging ourselves and tightening up about our own feelings,
Yeah.
And just notice whatever's there right now, whether there's a thought, feeling, memory, image, sensation, whatever.
Well, I realized that I had carried that grief sort of as a, from when I was 14.
Yes.
15 and around there, that has informed so much.
Yeah.
Of what I've done since. And then you think, whoa.
Yeah. And sometimes when you do that, then you get upset at yourself for doing that, and then that just creates another problem.
Yeah.
And so
that's what I mean about the wasted time. You know, it was like, because I've done Landmark. I don't know whether you've heard of Landmark, but I
Yeah.
spent a year doing that. So I got rid of all of this other stuff, but this one was even further down. It's like, whoa, this onion can go on forever.
Yeah. So just say, I release all my emotional attachments
I release all of my emotional attachments
to looking at this issue
through
the eyes of a 14-year-old girl.
Looking at this issue through the eyes of a 14-year-old girl
Who suffered a lot.
who suffered a lot.
And just let it do whatever it does. Just notice. And just keep tapping.
I am.
Just checking.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. Sort of went into overwhelm again. So
Yeah, sure. Well, they're big feelings. Sure.
Yeah, but I also realised I was coming down again much quicker than before. So
Yeah, so I kind of, this is what I do. You know me, if you've been in a few of my things, you know I just poke things and say, does this hurt? And ow, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's my specialty, you know.
Yeah, I know.
I'm good at upsetting people, you know, it's what I do. It's for a living.
And we pay you to do it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, even with tapping and even with intention tapping, sometimes there are very big feelings that need to move through. And the reason why we haven't been able to resolve them is because they overwhelm us so much that when we start feeling them, we run away from them on one way. We say no to them, you know. Tapas Fleming says that trauma happens when something real happens and we say no to it. No, this didn't happen. No, this isn't happening. No, this can't happen. No, this is too big for me. No, these feelings are too much. You know, no, on some level, you know. But it's a yes, because it's real. The things that happened did happen.
Yeah, I've actually been giving myself a bit of credit around this one, because I was able to talk to my friend about it and what had occurred when she contacted me, and you know, just anyway, it has been huge, but
Yes.
I sort of realized that there was still some residue there that I didn't think was allowing me to go forward. So
yeah, well, and some things are very difficult to address, you know. When my son was going to, you know, to split up with a previous girlfriend, you know, now he's with a beautiful lady and he's engaged, you know, but prior to this, some time back, you know, he was having to go and I to tell this person that it wasn't right. And I'd said to him, you know, number one, are you tapping? He's like, yes, I am. And number two, I said, there's no easy way to do some of these things, you know, because we have to go through that, if that makes sense.
We have to go through them, yes. And it's all, you know, it's a growth thing anyway. You always gain, I think.
Yeah, and most of the bigger, you know, the if you like, the negative of the feelings is things that we're attached to, and if it doesn't resolve or it doesn't move through, then we're stuck with an attachment. So that's what we want to release, because that just doesn't allow you any movement at all, you know.
No.
The best thing about the past is it is in the past. It's over. But if you're still suffering it in the present, then there's something about it that's still emotionally attached, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
So what's happening right now for you?
I'm feeling okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling okay.
Okay, just say I restore the right energy flow
I restore the right energy flow
to my heart.
to my heart. God. You bugger. Been a bit weepy.
Just let it do what it does. Your mind will make up stuff about it. Just let it do what it does. And I restore the right energy flow to my breath.
I restore the right energy flow to my breath. Thanks, Steve.
No worries. Well, the good thing is that you know tapping and you know the statement, so you can take this away and just continue to let that process. And I always say when you're dealing with big, heavy duty stuff like this, do a lot of tapping in the next 24 to 48 hours to just allow that to keep moving through and percolating through. And everything that you do just creates a little more of an opening, a little more space and a little more possibility. And then I'll be curious what happens when you have your next connection. So, if there's anything to report, I'd love to hear it. So,
thank you, Steve.
No worries. Okay, thank you. And now I'll remove the spotlights from us, and we'll join the group. And of course, we've gone over time, haven't we? So we have ended the time that we have officially a few minutes ago. But if someone has a quick question, I'm willing to hang around for a couple of minutes for a couple of questions. If someone really wants to ask a question now, I'm happy to stay here for a moment or two. Just put up your hand if you have one, or type something.
A quick question, Steve.
Yep.
Just about the workshop coming on, the level 1 workshop. What would you be recording that, and would there be an opportunity, like say if you have quite personal things to, like I would prefer not to have that recorded, I guess.
Okay.
How would you deal with that?
So we have to do the recording. The recordings are only available to people who sign up for the level 1 training, and other people who sign up to go through that and get the recordings, and that's accessed through a secure system. So everybody has to use a password to access and their email to be able to get in there, and they can only stream it, not download it. There's no 100% guarantee ever with anything that you do online. That's as secure as we can make it. But it's not going to be on YouTube, whereas these programs are going to be, as I mentioned, are going to be, for people to be able to access and to be able to learn from this. The workshops are only for people who purchase the workshop training. Okay,
cool. That's good. Because I've seen these on YouTube, so I was a bit conscious of that even before.
Understand. By the way, when you work on issues, you don't always have to tell us all the content, because your mind knows what you're dealing with. So you can quite often just keep some things to yourself, as long as you're working through the issues and still working on them. Everybody doesn't have to know all the details. Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
So
thanks.
Work with lots of people with that, and had lots of stuff without me having to know all the gory details, which is quite handy sometimes, because I've heard enough of that stuff over the years.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. So one more, if we have one more, I'll stay for one more question. Otherwise, we'll have to finish for today.
I haven't got a question, Steve, but just really a lovely observation that, you know, you said to Lou, we have to go through our feelings. And I thought at that moment, yeah, and we have to go through life. And how lovely it is. I experienced this on the level 1 workshop, that the humour that is part of that. Yes, there's the content that isn't humorous, but the humour that we can all share. And just now, I just love it. And thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's a delight as well as a learning curve.
Yeah, thank you. Well, life, I learned from Frank Farrelly that life as a human has the tragic mask and the comic mask, not just one or the other, you know. So we're not trivializing real problems, and we're not pretending that problems don't exist. But just because real severe bad problems exist does not mean that there isn't humor and there isn't fun and there isn't life, and there isn't life. And so the balance is where it's at. And so, yeah, that's what I love that comes out of this process, is that you get back to a balanced place. And also, you know, most of the darkness is just stuff that the mind has created or attached to, or that's been hardwired into our nervous system. Once we release it, we can see that it's just a thought, or it's just a concept. It's not real, you know. And yeah, that process of going through, you know, the mind will tell you, oh, that means you have to suffer so much. Well, that's just a mind created idea as well. So, yeah. All right, well, thank you. Would you give another round of applause to our volunteers today? Thank you so much for the people that have volunteered. Feel free, if you want to unmute now, to say just say farewell for now. I'd love to see you if you want to join us in one of the workshops or one of the group programs. But if not, stay in touch one way or the other. I'd love to get your feedback, love to hear your requests. There was talk about, I've mentioned the possibility of a program on overcoming procrastination with intention tapping. There's been a fair bit of interest in that. So that's something. Is that you, Lou? Are you laughing?
A fair bit of interest in that, but no action.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot about procrastination. I've been a specialist for most of my life.
Don't we all?
Thank
you so much, Steve. So lovely to be with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
so
Steve.
we'll see you for now. I'll send out the recordings very, very soon. Okay?
Thank you.
For now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye.